challenges that any film critic can face is giving a proper review of a film that deals with a certain political issue that you may feel very passionate about. This is more or less the same challenge I had with my review for Grandma. I do not deny that the biggest reason I love that film so much is the way it tackles a certain political issue that I myself am very passionate about. However, I can confidently say that is not the only reason I find Grandma to be a good film. There are many more aspects to the film that truly make it a joy to watch. Which brings me to today's subject, Suffragette. Or Suffragette? I can never remember how to pronounce that. I think I'll just go with Suffragette for now. I do apologize if that's incorrect. This is yet another very strongly politically driven film that I find myself absolutely loving. However, while I don't personally find it to be really on par with Grandma, I still find it to be incredibly relevant all the same. As the title implies, the film follows the suffragette movement, which for those of you who may not know was the early movement in Britain to secure women's right to vote. The story follows Maud Watts, played by Carey Mulligan, who really wants to join the suffragette movement, but can't but is afraid of losing her family. But after a little soul-searching, she joins the movement and fights for her right to vote. From then on, the film showcases all the horrible struggles that many women have to suffer in order to have their voices heard. Historical accuracy aside, the story is presented pretty well for the most part. The direction is fluid, the pacing is decent, the acting is superb, and the writing is top-notch. However, the film is not completely perfect in my opinion. For one thing, Emmeline Pankhurst, the leader of the suffragette movement and one of the strongest voices for women's rights in history, as played by Meryl Streep, isn't really in the movie at all. She shows up for a brief speech for like 5 minutes and then that's it. Normally this wouldn't really be a problem, but she's top billed in the poster. And if you're going to advertise Meryl Streep in your movie, you better have more than 5 minutes of Meryl Streep in your movie. And then there's the main real problem I have with the movie. It's cinematography. I've mentioned before that available light aesthetic is my personal preference when it comes to style, and that it is entirely possible to film a dark style without being so dark that you can't make out what's going on screen. Suffragette suffers from that very problem. It feels like it's trying too hard to replicate the lighting style of the time. Most scenes in this film are so dark you can barely make out what's happening on screen. I get that they were very likely trying to replicate what lighting would have looked like back then, but it comes at the potential cost of the audience's ability to invest in the story. When the audience has to work too hard to make out what's happening on screen, it's difficult for them to get invested. And when the film decides to go for some handheld shaky cam style, it just knocks me right out of the proceedings. Again, I understand why they did it. I just personally wish they had done it differently. Fortunately, everything else in the film successfully makes up for that minor setback. As a film critic, a filmmaker, liberal, a feminist, and a human being, I find this film to be very, very good, and highly recommended. However, I would recommend against seeing it in theaters, as the British dialects are so strong, it's hard to make out what the actors are saying half the time. So I would personally recommend waiting for it to come out on DVD so you can turn on subtitles. Ladies and gentlemen, I am TheNorm. Thanks for watching.